Sometimes when you think about big questions in life, you have to kind of slow down and understand reality. We constantly think about our future, our present, what we need to do for the day. We are a world that is a hustle and bustle filled with anxiety, doubt, guilt. So in order to relieve that, to start your day right, a lot of times I'll reflect inwards, specifically on the word reality and what it means to us. We utilize our senses in order to experience and manipulate our reality, our universe. We're bound by our senses. We're bound by our language. We're bound by the frequencies our ears can hear or what we can see as visible light in a spectrum. That dictates our physical reality. The reality around us is not only what we make it, but it's what we perceive it as. Just think about it like this. You are one entity, one soul, one being, in a sea of 8 billion others on this earth. Completely individualistic. In every way. Genetics, looks, thoughts. Again, that's almost 8 billion people estimated on this earth. If you were to count to 1 million, start now. I'll see you next week. 8 billion. And we are flying on a little rock the size of a speck of sand in the largest beach that you've ever known. And we are one planet in a solar system. And that solar system is one solar system of billions of other solar systems just in the Milky Way galaxy. And the Milky Way galaxy is just one of billions, if not trillions, of galaxies within the universe, the observable universe. The scale of our universe cannot be conceptualized in any ability by the human mind. That's how extensive it is. Out of all of that vastness, which is basically infinite, you are you, and you are here, and you are experiencing your reality. And most of the reality has been dictated to you to what it should be since birth. But that doesn't mean that you are actually looking at even a very small, if not 1%, of what reality really is. And we get too caught up in this physical world and all of our anxieties and responsibilities and thoughts and the quest for money and power and health and travel and everything that we see around us and perceive that others are doing while we're struggling, while everyone's struggling in their own way with something at any time. The size of our reality literally makes you insignificant to an exponential power. But are you insignificant? You're you. Not only are you, but you are you at ungodly odds. And besides having ungodly odds of being you, which you are, also there had to be the most perfect circumstance of a creation of our molecules and chemicals within our universe for any one of us to even exist. And if it were to change, if the structure of what we know of our chemical balances or how the universe works from a atomic scale, a subatomic scale, that even if the smallest of minute, of fraction if it changed in any way, the whole universe and our reality would collapse within itself. So if you have ungodly statistical odds to be you, with ungodly statistical odds for us to even exist, what that means is that it's not based on statistics that you do exist. There is essentially a divine order for you to exist. Which means that you are not even close to pulling back the curtain on what reality truly is. And when you sit back and understand that concept, you can understand the absurdity of it all. And the absurdity of reality is what can then open up your mind to understand that your normal daily functions is not even close to what it is. I'd like to take example to go back in history with science. For thousands of years, the concept of electricity existed. We know that through historical texts from times of Egypt, that there was depictions of some sort of electrical reaction. People would look at lightning and things like that. But the idea of a light bulb in the 1700s was not in the ether, did not exist. It was not part of reality until it became part of reality. Atoms on a subatomic level and the way that they worked was a theory, a thought for a long time, until we were able to split the atom, create a bomb, and use it for military purposes. Where before that, our reality existed that yes, there could be war and destruction, but not really global destruction on a scale that wipes us all out by our own hands. We know texts and literature and psalms and hymns and everything else that you can speak of catastrophic cataclysms and things like that, great floods and earthquakes and volcano eruptions and asteroids and meteors. We're so enthralled by that as humans because we all wonder about Judgment Day, which comes to us all. It's just a matter of how. So when you understand that Judgment Day meets us all and the absurdity of your existence, then you can understand that this is not the only reality that exists, nor is the reality of your five senses or your sixth sense as well all that there is. Your reality exists today where someone cannot move something with their mind. But if you physically saw it with one of your senses, and you saw someone and there was no tricks involved, and they were able to utilize their mind to lift an object, well, your reality changes right there. The consciousness of your reality changes right there. You may be somebody who's said that they've seen a ghost or a family member, and no one can tell you different. Or you've seen God or Jesus, and there's no one that can tell you different. Your reality is different than someone else's on how you perceive it. Your consciousness towards that reality is yours. Maybe you witnessed something in the skies that you couldn't understand what it was, but it's right in front of you. It's happened to me. Changed and shook my reality from that moment. It wasn't too long ago. Driving in the car, see something, you double take, but it's there for if not seconds, minutes. And nobody can tell me different. Hallucination? No. Driving to go somewhere, no substances involved. There it is. My reality changed. People take substances in order to change their reality, whether it's a hallucination, whether it's a true chemical change that allows us to antenna a certain frequency or wave to experience another realm. I'm not the one to tell you. But your reality changes within that chemical moments that you're under that influence. So you may say that's a hallucination, but it's still reality, because what you're experiencing under that chemical substance is happening to you. You may say it's an hallucination, but are you sure? And if you say, yes, I'm sure, well, there's no fact or fiction to anything. It's your reality, your perception of what it is. You may say, yes, I'm just hallucinating. Or you may say, no, I've done some scientific research and that chemical has changed something which has changed this and within the chemical balance of my brain, and my brain is an antenna to reality for me to perceive this universe. My antenna was changed, and therefore I was able to see additional realities or another reality, and I'm able to dip back and forth. That is your personal perception. But you can't say whether it's fact or fiction. Another person can't say whether or not your reality is fact or fiction if you're dead set on the fact of something that occurred that they did not see, whether you saw the ghost, whether you saw the UFO, whether you had some sort of sixth sense feeling that nobody can deny. When something has happened to you and there's no more coincidence involved, there can't be. When you realize that your reality is not waking up in the morning, putting on your clothes, going to work, doing this, doing that. That is your day-to-day, sure. Because we are here to live under a hierarchy and a structure that was created before our individual self, as we know it today, started to exist. We were told how to manipulate this hierarchy and this structure that we've been put into, and the basic common goals of everyone else and what yours should be. Make money, have a house, children, family, spouse, success, determination, motivation, competition. All of these things exist for us to live. They are our day-to-day reality. But our realities can change at any moment. And if they change within enough people, well, that is the collective consciousness and the collective reality. And we're going to definitely speak about collective consciousness because it comes into play a lot to the perception of our realities. Because it's the collective consciousness of all of our conscious beings coming together to understand what a cup is, or a mirror, or the fact that someone can own a plot of land. There must be a collective consciousness involved in that for that to occur. We take the example of the Native Americans. We are restricted once again to our reality by language. We've spoken about that. Native Americans, in their language across North America, never had a word for some sort of personal property when it came to land. That was something new brought by the Europeans. I'd like to buy this parcel of land. They could not conceptualize that concept of purchasing the land, because in their reality, one individual could not own any portion of the earth. You are the earth. The earth is you. You utilize it and manipulate it to live, not to own it. And it was the European culture and way that brought that reality to North America. Brought the reality of, if you do not claim this particular part of land, well, that it will be sold underneath you and you will be moved out. And if you do not move, we will kill you. It's as simple as that. The reality for Native Americans changed with the first boat from Europe. Our existence changed after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We now moved into a nuclear age of possible total annihilation by our own species. Essentially, we get given the ability to collectively commit suicide. And that suicide would be pushed on a button by people that we don't really truly know what their agenda and intentions are, that we have put in power based on collective consciousness of thoughts, of emotions, of agendas, of groups that want to obtain and maintain power. You have given power to people that have spent their lives seeking it. And since they've spent their whole eternal existence seeking that power, and they have received it, they're now the one dictating whether you ultimately live in comfort. Think about that. That's your reality. And that's not to make you anxious, not to make you scared. It's to make you think about what the true concept is of your reality, how you see it, and how your personal individualistic reality on a collective conscious scale could mean. You are a large part in a very small piece of the pie, one of possibly 8 billion. But your reach, your perception, and your reality can start with you. And it could start at this moment, because reality is your innate, inherent ability to perceive the physical world of what we call the physical world. And it's only dictated by you. Not only do you perceive your own self as reality, but what you project onto others is perceived by them as their reality. So if you go around speaking doom and gloom, or that an asteroid's going to strike, or Armageddon is on its way, you will promote and attract people, or convince them in other ways that that is the reality. You have power over yourself, of course, but you do have power over others as well. Knowing this, you can sit back, breathe, understand the absurdity of this existence, understand the insignificance of yourself, although you are very significant within the pie. If you do this, then you could take things much more lightly. You can think clearer. You can think objectively. You can understand the nature and the hierarchy of things. And you can better suit yourself to better yourself personally, your perception, your reality, and the people around you. And ultimately, that is what's most important. Remove the thoughts of that there's always fact or fiction, true or false. Understand that there's a spectrum to everything. Your reality can literally change at any moment, in both good and bad, and everything in between. At one moment, you're sitting, relaxing, speaking to your children. The next moment, you hear a voice. You know that it's something bad has just happened or whatever it might be. And something happens. We've all gone through it in some sort of way. Your reality changes at that moment. It's quick. So if things like that can happen at the blink of an eye, well, then it's our job to slow ourselves down. We live in a hustling, bustling world of money-making, responsibilities, of keeping up with the Joneses, of materialism that is projected to us in every moment of our lives through now technology that is not just with us, it's absolutely a part of us. It is us. It's our being now. Your phone is you. You are your phone. There's a reciprocating vice versa. You manipulate your phone, well, your phone manipulates you. Your phone understands with an algorithm what your likes and dislikes are. And it pinpoints your likes, and even pinpoints your dislikes, and it exacerbates it. It makes it more and more and more. And you start seeing the things that you somewhat agree with. And you will validate those validations through constantly looking at what you're looking at. Take politics, for example. If you are constantly going and looking up liberal ideas, well, it will project further liberal ideas. And if you're going to look up conservative ideas, well, it's going to learn and project more conservative ideas to you. And it's going to try and do that because it's looking for clicks and clickbait. It's about advertising and understanding what you are. What is your perception of reality? And how can I manipulate that for you to buy something, for you to understand something, for you to vote a certain way? So as you put those glasses on, and you make those glasses thicker and thicker. Take politics, for example. As you look at your phone and look up more conservative ideas, well, now you have glasses on with red lenses. And those red lenses will get darker and darker and darker until you can no longer see anything else but red. Or if you're looking up liberal ideas, democratic ideas, and you're going to the places that normally promote and push that and have an agenda based on it, well, then you're putting on a light shade of blue glasses, and those glasses are getting thicker and thicker and bluer as you look further and further and further, and your reality, your perception to reality based on politics is now clouded to only blue. Anything that is brought to you that may have a hue of red, well, it mixes with your blue, it messes it up to a different color, you remove it. It is not validating to you. It is no longer part of your perception and your reality because you are too far gone with shades of blue. That's how this works. Understand it. Innately, inherently understand it. And you can prevent it. You can be objective in your thoughts, which ultimately is what makes you succeed. Because if you put your flag in one spot, you can only win, 50% of the time. Or you only have 50% of the chances to win because you've disregarded the other 50%. And out of that 50%, well, now you're under the same basics and metrics of trying to succeed. Well, you'd rather have 100% of the pie to try and succeed rather than cut that in half and then try and succeed. Because there's no way that you could ever get 100% of the pie. You've disregarded 50% of it. That is what you're doing by allowing yourself to be manipulated in your perception that no matter what, this is fact or this is fiction. If you're conservative or liberal, you're wrong. And everything about you is wrong. And actually, you may not even be a patriot. Or if you're a liberal and you're looking the other way, you're wrong, you're a racist, you're a gun toter, you don't understand this, you're wrong about this, you don't like this people, love is love, whatever it is. As you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, you're further dividing yourself, further putting those thick glasses on in original color, making them darker, and losing your ability to be objective. Your perception and your reality has now changed completely. Take a look at people that get caught up in cults. They are told things over and over and over and over until their perception of reality has changed to where they are now validated by the group, however that may be. They are then manipulated by a superior for that superior's own advantage. And you have people from the outside who say, don't you realize, don't you perceive, don't you understand what is going on here? And while they're in the cult, they are incapable of understanding. They can sit there and have a thought, but that thought is completely removed out of their mind, either by their mental manipulation that's occurred, their brainwashing, or it could be done physically and forcefully afterwards, to the point where you will have people who will drink Kool-Aid and put on Nikes. That Kool-Aid is laced with a substance for suicide, and you will wait for Halley's Comet and die based on those beliefs. This stuff happens all the time because the perception of reality has been manipulated and changed in some way, whether it be by a voice, by a superior, by a group, by a religion, by a political system, by a family, whatever it may be. And I'm not saying that the concept of listening to my voice is not changing your perception of your reality. And I'm not here to say that whether or not my voice and what I'm saying relates to what you think is good for your existence is not good for your existence. Because remember, this is not about fact or fiction, truth or falsehood. This is about just you understanding inherently, innately, for you to further understand on your own what the truth or your personal perception and truth of reality may be. And sometimes people understand things inherently. It just has to be brought to their attention. I was having a conversation with a friend, and we were talking about schizophrenia. My uncle was schizophrenic. He had multiple personalities, paranoid schizophrenia. He paced all day. When you saw him, you said, that's a crazy person. He drank 20 cups to 30 cups of coffee a day, barely slept, smoked 3-4 packs a day, 60 to 80 cigarettes a day. He would get a shot once a month. I used to call it a lobotomy shot. If you don't know what a lobotomy is, that's when they used to do a procedure where they take a portion of your brain out, which basically makes your motor functions slow, your ability to concentrate, and you become somewhat of a vegetable state. Well, he'd get a basic lobotomy shot, which would slow down the chemical imbalances of his brain because he would have multiple personalities. It was harmless, but multiple personalities. And towards the end of the month when the shot ran off, you would know because those personalities would come out. Who is to say that he is hallucinating his reality? Now, science has looked at it and said, okay, well, we understand that this person is schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic. They're hearing things, they're speaking to people, they're visualizing things that we can't see. Now remember, we spoke that our reality is based on frequency. We know that scientifically as well. That there's a spectrum of frequencies that we could see, hear, touch, feel, taste. And we're restricted by those frequencies, where if you have a dog, well, they have higher frequency or lower frequency pitches that they can understand. And that's why they can hear a dog whistle and we can't. Their reality is different based on that. Well, science has looked at schizophrenia and seen that there's something called a basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is in the middle of your brain. It's kind of where you would consider the third eye, the pineal gland right in the middle. It's a protective substance. It's a protective fleshy substance, but what looks as fibrosis to anything else or scar tissue, well, we've found that scientists have found that the basal ganglia has some sort of fibrosis or scar tissue around it, and that's has a propensity in people that have schizophrenia or develop Parkinson's or things like that. But what they've come to find out is that it also is the same thing, because they thought it was a bad thing. Now they say it might not necessarily be a bad thing, that very high-functioning people, which we may look at and call geniuses or have a different understanding of the world, the reality, universe, and perception, the open-minded people, the people that you may call crazy. They're not crazy schizophrenic, but you got to be a little bit of a lunatic in order to be what you are, like Einstein and things like that. Well, they have a hardening of the basal ganglia. And what science has shown is that that is the portion of the brain that is not understood to the reality of consciousness, of your soul, of where those pulses are coming from. We know that there's electrical pulses going through our body that's doing our motor functions, our thinking, and making us go through this reality to experience it. But we don't know what the connection is from you being a sentient, conscious being in this reality and where it comes from. But we know that there's a delay, and it could be measured in a Planck scale as electrical pulses, as if you're playing a video game and you hit button X. Well, it's essentially to you an immediate change to that video game. If you press X and you want a character to punch, well, it punches pretty much instantaneously, but we know that it's not instantaneous. It's done on an electrical level, which is at the speed of light, okay, through fiber optics or whatever it may be. But there is something at a minuscule, what we call a Planck scale, that can be detectable and measured. Well, the same thing happens with us. So what that means is that what we do, our thoughts on our conscious level, is happening even before we consciously understand it. Take this for example. Have you flinched? And then you flinched and then you noticed the fly that was coming towards your eye? Or did you flinch and then the rock hit the windshield? That's Planck scale. Have you looked over from the left lane to the right lane, not knowing why, to understand that, well, the person in the right lane is staring at you? That's reactionary methods of the Planck scale. And that's the thing that scientists are trying to grasp and calculate and understand better in consciousness. But that is your perception, that is your reality. And when it comes to a schizophrenic, we know that if that basal ganglia is hardened to a point, and that is your antenna and your reception to reality, and that we are in a frequency range that allows for this reality, and that frequency can be changed with hallucinogenic drugs for us to experience, then what's to say that the schizophrenic wasn't born with the ability to dip frequencies into other realities that we do not perceive? And we are, as a collective consciousness, saying that that person's crazy because we are not experiencing the same frequencies and realities or dipping in and out of them. But who's to say that they aren't? And they just don't understand why you don't see what they see. So there's no fact or fiction. There's just spectrums of in between. A schizophrenic who might be paranoid schizophrenia, sure. I mean, if you're dipping in and out of the reality and everybody's telling you so, and you're really seeing someone, they're really speaking to you, or you're really understanding in your mind that something is occurring that to everyone else it's not, well, they're all going to think you're crazy. In the same way that you're going to look at a problem-solving thing that everyone else was taught in an institutional educational manner, and you perceptualize it some way else and figure it out in a different way, or you're an out-of-the-box thinker, all of that comes into play where people may look and say, he's an out-of-the-box thinker, he's eccentric, he's a little crazy, but brilliant. It comes with the territory. So if that's the case, and we all want people to think that we're smart, it's an attractive thing. If you're a female or you're male, if you want to pick up a relationship, well, the reality is that person is sizing you up. Physical, social abilities, intelligence. You know, I mean, you could look at someone and say, all right, not my type as a physical being, but then you speak to them, you're like, wow, very intelligent. And then you become aware of it, you hone in on it, and that becomes attractive to you. Maybe you don't care about intelligence, it's all about looks. That's different. But we all would love to be beautiful and highly intelligent. There's a yin and a yang to everything. But, you know, if you're one of the lucky ones that not only genetically allow that, but have your own innate abilities to understand, be aware, manipulate the universe, and be considered intelligent, that's great. And expand upon it. Everyone has the ability to expand upon it. Your reality is your perception, but it's also what you show other people as your reality to their perception. So if you can understand things just by listening to something like this, not to take this as Bible, not to take this as, you know, I need to listen because it's going to better me. No, it's a way for you to slow down and just understand what you already know. You're just not cognizant of it because the daily routine of life has not allowed you to go inside and reflect upon this. And even though you know it, I'm not telling anything that you don't know. You're just perceiving it now in a different way, inherently, because I've brought it to the forefront of your consciousness, although you knew it subconsciously. That is the ability to change reality. It's not only by changing it through actual senses, by seeing it. If someone lifts something, an object, a heavy object with their brain, and there is no trickery involved in this, well, your reality completely shifts to something extraordinary. And the idea of changing the collective consciousness, that is the hardest thing to do. Personal, individual realities can change at any moment, good or bad. But it's the collective consciousness. You look at this UFO, UAP scenario where they say that there's disclosure. The government is coming out and saying things. It's on the news. They're giving you wish-wash, generalized ideas of what may be happening, what might not be happening. There's disinformation, misinformation. This is all done for specific reasons, but the idea of the fact that it's being disclosed to us for whatever the agenda is, and that's for us to figure out because they don't want us to know just yet. But our reality is being changed. Going back to that cult scenario, we are being fed information, whether it be real, misinformation, disinformation, whatever. But it's being fed to us, and it's obviously being fed because everything is fed to you for a reason. So our reality is being changed. And it is being changed slowly into the collective consciousness of humanity for a reason. And I actually predict within the next 10 years, maybe even sooner, our real, true reality of what we think being human is will change more than it has in our, say, 25,000 year recorded history. Our histories go much further back, but I'm talking about what we considered civilization or agricultural, and coming up to the point where, we were able to write things down. But I think we're going to have a complete different understanding of what reality is, and things like what I'm discussing right now will come more into play, not as just scientific, but also spiritual. Not only spiritual, but also scientific. So, to finish up, your reality is the perception of what you feel yourself is, what you project to others, and what they perceive of you. Your reality is your five senses, a partial sixth sense that you have subconsciously, inherently, that comes out sometimes, but you don't really understand it. It's there. Your reality is closed right now, but you have the ability to keep it open, which will make you more objective, which will give you the ability to understand, realize things in a different way, be more intelligent, be more open, be more adjusting. And by doing that, not only will you help yourself, but you will help the immediate people around you in every facet. Be significant in this ultra insignificant fraction of what we call reality. Until next time, peace, prosperity. Use your inherent innate abilities. Speak soon.